Okay, this is Immigrant Rights Are Civil Rights from Race, Class, and Gender, 10th edition. So the article focuses on the Mississippi Immigrant Rights Alliance, or MIRA, who spearheaded the defeat of 282 anti-immigrant bills in Mississippi. Only one bill did pass during their tenure, but no funding was ever appropriated for the measure, and it has never been enforced. So many people tend to focus on states like Alabama or South Carolina who have passed anti-immigrant measures, but the article argues that often overlooked is how anti-immigrant legislation was blocked in spite of conservative and racial political histories within Mississippi. So it's important to understand how they did this to enhance other organizations to be able to, they themselves, form power alliances like those that MIRA has. So the article also talks about the issue of the assumption that the Black community and Latinx community are natural enemies, right? That Black-Latinx relations are always negative. So the powerful alliance that the researchers discuss contradicts the assumptions of what most social scientists assume about Black-Latinx relations, as researchers document and media proliferates the idea that groups are adversarial, Black versus brown, competing for resources, which makes alliances difficult. Yet MIRA has built this coalition between immigrant rights activists and organizations, as well as civil rights movement veterans, labor leaders, most of which are Black or Latinx. So the organization is also allied with the Black Caucus of Mississippi, which was integral to defeating the anti-immigrant bills. And this is a strategic alliance that took years to form. So MIRA's central focus is on immigration issues in Mississippi. The article talks about Bill Chandler, who was a white California labor organizer who had worked with grape growers in California in league with Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez. By the time he moved to Mississippi, he believed that the future of progressive politics depended on a strong Black Latinx coalition. At the time, casinos were contracting hiring to recruiters who would abuse the largely undocumented workers. So they organized and had a number of demands to improve working conditions and increase wages. And management did agree to their demands. But then the next day, they had the immigrant workers arrested and put into deportation proceedings. Chandler himself went to the Gulf Coast to support the largely Black union leadership that was trying to respond to the firings and the deportations. At the same time, rumors also spread that Latinx immigrants were being denied enrollment in public schools. And given the history of Jim Crow segregation that ensured racially unequal schooling, many Black leaders saw discrimination as related to their own civil rights agenda in Mississippi, which again is important to forming this coalition. So this led to that coalition of activists that formed an organization made up of civil rights leaders, labor, faith-based leaders, and community organizations from around Mississippi who all worked together on behalf of immigrant rights. So by 2005, MIRA had enough support that they successfully killed several anti-immigrant bills. They even collaborated with the local media to promote a campaign that spread the message that the two communities are allies and not enemies. When Hurricane Katrina happened, MIRA took on a new relevance, as an estimated 350,000 Latinx construction workers, mostly undocumented, were laboring in hazardous conditions to clean up the area and rebuild the destroyed properties. Then, ruthless contractors stole their wages, and at the same time, many emergency shelters refused to admit Latinx residents who had lost their homes. MIRA became a lifeline for immigrants by forcing shelters to change their practices and by winning over $1 million in back wages for immigrant workers that were cheated by their employers. Anti-immigrant policy efforts escalated after the Katrina incident and culminated in the largest raid searching for immigrants in U.S. history in 2008, where over 600 undocumented Latinx workers were arrested and deported. The raid did not only affect those immigrants and their families, but also the African-American employees at the plant who watched their co-workers and fellow union members get arrested and deported. So they organized to raise funds to support their co-workers. And so MIRA continued to foster a strong alliance between Black and Latinx communities, And the organization partnered with the Black Caucus, which again is why they were so successful at blocking anti-immigrant legislation. In Mississippi, these alliances have not only produced legislative success, but has also changed the way that many think about race and racial politics within the state, and really how they talk about it, right? As by partnering with the media, they were able to change those kind of prevailing narratives. So when it comes to building a new politics for the South, Mira's leaders attribute their success to coalition-style politics and its rootedness in social justice battles of earlier eras. Other similar alliances are emerging across the South. So Mira was founded on the principle that all immigration laws, from beginning to end, are about two things: racism and managing labor. Seeing the issues as interwoven, a coalition formed based on the idea that Black and Latinx issues are inextricably linked, and that there are power connections that can be made, and really understandings that can be shared between racism against the Black community and discrimination against the immigrant community. So this research is very important because it shows the potential for alliances between groups in the future, and the need to mobilize with an intersectional focus in mind in order to build strong power coalitions to be able to advocate for the rights of those who are being discriminated against.